as part of my Stephen King Revisited reading. I'm going to read the introduction here and then add in anything that may not be covered there. So this is after Under the Dome, Stephen King Revisited. The plan is to reread all of Stephen King's works in the order they were published. Richard Chismar of Cemetery Dance had the vision. I'm doing it because I'm a writer and I want to improve my fiction. And I love Stephen King stories. I think there is something to be learned through this process. You can also go back to the beginning and read Before Carrie or any of my other posts up through this one and beyond by checking out this link to the master list of all my Stephen King Revisited posts. All right, so again, I should be done by the end of the year. So I'm kind of, as I'm recording this, I'm on 11/22/63, which is another long book. But if I keep up the pace I'm on now, I should be done by November, maybe early December, and I'm hoping then I can move on to Brian Keene Revisited. But with Stephen King Revisited, I write a post before each book and after each book, and then just kind of notes on what I took. I try to be spoiler free as much as possible, but again, there's always things that you might run into here. All right, no treats, only tricks. I actually pulled that for a story idea. The Pink Stars Are Falling. In this 1,074-page novel, Under the Dome, Stephen King manages to unravel the entire fabric of society in this isolated town in less than a week. The right kind of bad guys help, but they lost it fast. I tend to believe that timeline more now in recent years. I like the television version of the story despite all its flaws. They had to really pull back the evil of the bad guy characters to make it work over an extended period of time. Still, there is enough darkness there to make the balance tenuous. Therein lay some of the big flaws in the small screen adaptation. The list of character names is overwhelming. It's a big cast of characters. I didn't even bother with the character list in the front. The novel was easy enough to follow as the story progresses. The airplane and the woodchuck are great pieces of iconic opening of the novel. Chester's Mill, the domed town, is south of the wooded and unincorporated TR-90. This strange little tract of land has played a big part in Bag of Bones and The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Every pulp truck in Stephen King novels is loaded way past the legal weight limit. All pulp trucks are deadly outlaws looking to run people down and risk blowing themselves up in the name of profit in these books. The movie version of The Mist is mentioned. I actually have a friend of mine who was an actor in that movie. This novel is full of references to pop culture and current to the time politics. Several real-life reporters from CNN find themselves around the dome reporting on the fate of the town. A couple Fox News correspondents are mentioned by reputation but not name. The National Threat Advisory left over from the September 11th terror attacks is mentioned here. That's a kind of odd anachronistic thing. Not anachronistic, antiquated thing. I'm sorry. Because, of course, they used that right after September 11th to kind of let us know how scared we were supposed to be of terror attacks, but it wasn't really that useful of a device, and eventually it wasn't used anymore, thank goodness. A Rudy Giuliani reference in this to his popularity after handling the terror attacks has not aged very well. Giuliani not doing quite well in public acclaim at this moment. President Obama makes an appearance in the story and is referenced often. Lost, the TV show, is referenced again as it has been in previous novels. The character has pictures of himself shaking hands with Sarah Palin, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Tiger Woods. That's an interesting combination of people. Gregory House from the show House is mentioned. Girls Gone Wild on pay-per-view. Senator Lindsey Graham bought a fake rug in Iraq, according to one character in the story. Facebook is referenced. Snapple Iced Tea is mentioned, and it comes up a lot, so I'm thinking King either really enjoyed it or it's a pop culture reference that's stuck in his head. Brad and Angelina, and then Hillary Clinton crying before the New Hampshire primary is referenced. Dale Barbara Barbie is the Jack Reacher-esque ex-military thriller character every male author strives to create. Ironically, Lee Child's Jack Reacher character is mentioned twice in the novel. Jack recommended Dale Barbara and one other Chester's Mill character to the President of the United States. A pastor struggling with her faith refers to God at various times as not there, the great maybe, and the omnipresent could be. The impromptu protest ends with a brilliantly failed experiment. In some ways, this sets off the chain of bad events as much as the dark dealings of our evil characters. I completely forgot the radio station and drug dealing subplots. That strikes me as odd, seeing how they were so pivotal to the novel. I found I forgot many big and small plot points since my first reading. The girls' basketball analogy for drive and darkness, and the darkness behind a particular character, is long but brilliant. Not many authors could get away with that. I wonder how much Stephen King likes girls' basketball, because some of his references on how they kind of fight meaner and take it more personally is kind of interesting. Like maybe it's something that he watched and supported, and that's kind of how he got these details. But the way he used it in the novel is brilliant. A frame job of the good guys comes together with no outside help to stop a terrible rise to power. I forgot about the second plane, too. Let us all take a look at. I first saw this narrative device by King in the co-written novel Black House. I don't like this gimmick. The author speaks as if we are floating through the story in a meta fashion. When this device is used, I don't recall in it from the first reading of Under the Dome. It didn't bother me as much this time like it was in previous work. So what I'm talking about is that since Black House and a few times in different novels, including this one, Stephen King will take the narration in sort of a meta phase. So he'll say, we're floating through this building and we hide upon this the windowsill, and we watch this character do this and this one do that. They don't really notice us. Now we drift down the stairs and we find ourselves with these characters in the jail cells, and they speak to one another. Maybe they feel a breeze, but they don't know we're here. Now we drift back out on the street. So he does that sort of thing. It was excessive in Black House, and it's not a technique that I like as a reader. But again, as I said, it didn't bother me as much in this novel the way it was used. Grandpa exercises to deal with sorrow. Once again, grief is the primary motivator for exercise for Stephen King characters. The Southern dialect Stephen King describes for one character isn't great, and he sort of abandons it as the character's arc progresses. The use of the word y'all was randomly placed in the character's dialogue. So it's kind of, it doesn't really connect to any particular Southern accent. Now, again, I'm careful not to criticize people's portrayals of the South, even though I live in the South, because the South is such a diverse place that, like what I experienced in coastal South Carolina is different from Mississippi, is different from the hills of Tennessee, which is different from South Georgia, which is different from Atlanta, which is different from the Panhandle, which is different from Eastern Kentucky, which is different from Texas. So you look at all these southern states, and even from one part of a state to another, they can be really different, and the accents can be different, and the culture's different, and the experiences are different. So I'm cautious to ever look at someone's portrayal of a Southerner or the South and say, well, that's not how it really is, because even for a person who lives in the South, their experience of it is not the same as everybody else, and that's different from town to town, and even between races in a particular town. But that being said, it didn't feel like this character had a particular dialect. He said he was from South Carolina, this particular character, but the pieces of the accent were not consistent. So it just felt like, okay, we're just going to generically make this guy a hick and just throw in words. And even like when y'all was used, it was used in the wrong places. It was very odd. And like I said, the accent sort of bled away as the character went on in his part of the story. Cross purposes collide in the story in really complex ways. We have a double climax at the end with gunfire in town and a shootout in a field that ends in cataclysm. All right, Ants Under Magnifying Glass underscores the culmination of the novel nicely. Under the magnifying glass, it will always be an end by fire one way or the other. A great long novel if you have the time. And just a little blurb there. I love you, Chef. My next post in this series will be before Full Dark No Stars, which will be linked to the master list, and that one's on there, including some others as we go along. So if you're interested, all right, let me hit the master list here. All right. If you're interested in seeing any of the posts that I did, you can look at the master list and you'll see all these books and that I've read so far. I'm going to go and put that in chat real quick before we sign off. So that is the master list of all my Stephen King revisited posts so far. So you can start from Carrie and work your way up to the present as well.